Howie Roseman just made a gritty depth move before our first preseason game. The front office scooped up an incredibly athletic defender who posted some absurd workout numbers before the draft. This guy is a certified wrecking ball on special teams and brings serious competition to training camp. Smash that subscribe button to catch all your Eagles updates. Linebacker Brandon George is the newest Philadelphia Eagle, as the team adds another body to the middle of the defense. Reporting from Jeremy Fowler via ESPN confirms the Eagles are bringing in the 25-year-old following his stint on the Kansas City Chiefs injured reserve list. George, who went undrafted out of Pittsburgh, is known for his unique athleticism and special teams background, boasting a massive unofficial 9.98 relative athletic score out of a possible 10.00. That figure is truly eye-opening, ranking 7th out of over 3,000 linebackers since 1987. While he spent his college years as a mainstay on coverage units, he only served as a full-time starter for one season at Pitt. What nobody is talking about is the sheer competition George faces immediately upon arrival. He enters a room already packed with established guys like Zach Bond and Jihad Campbell, while the front office remains clearly focused on developing prospects such as Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Smile Mondon. Does his testing profile provide enough juice to actually push these players for a final roster spot? Or is this simply depth during a busy stretch of training camp? Most of us are wondering if his size is enough to overcome concerns about his sideline-to-sideline speed and coverage liabilities. With the preseason opener against Baltimore set for Saturday night, time is short for any newcomer to show they belong in midnight green. We have seen plenty of guys with high physical testing numbers flame out before the first cut, yet every fan in this city knows how quickly a special team standout can surprise the coaching staff. Can George actually leverage his gaps and prove his pro day numbers translate to real game speed during these upcoming joint practices in New England? The answer will define his entire future here. George spent the entire 2025 season on the Kansas City Chiefs injured reserve list, a reality that makes his emergence in Philadelphia such a curious development for our linebacker core. After being released by Kansas City back in May, the 25-year-old finds himself fighting for a second chance in a league that rarely offers them to undrafted players with limited game tape. And I cannot stress this enough. The front office is clearly prioritizing raw, explosive traits over polished experience by bringing in a defender who only started one full season at Pittsburgh. Why would a team with established depth go after a project like this? Perhaps the scouts saw something during his stint as a special teams mainstay that suggests he can handle the high-speed requirements of professional coverage units, despite those concerns about his sideline-to-sideline range. Lance Zierlein noted that while his frame is burly and his testing numbers are outstanding, he remains a liability in coverage and occasionally struggles to fit up the run correctly. Watching him attempt to bridge that gap between his athletic testing and real-world play speed is going to be the central conflict of his preseason. Do we really expect an undrafted player to leapfrog guys like Smile Mondon or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. just because he posted an impressive pro day showing? It feels like a long shot, but looking at his journey from being sidelined for a full year to signing here, you have to appreciate the grit it takes to show up at a camp knowing you are arguably the lowest man on the totem pole. We will see exactly what he brings to the field when the Eagles head to Baltimore this weekend for the preseason opener, assuming the coaches decide he has learned the playbook well enough for meaningful snaps. That is the factual breakdown of the signing, so let us pivot to what this development signals for our squad as we look ahead to the season. The bottom line here is that the coaching staff is testing the depth of the room before the real games begin, and George provides a massive high-ceiling option if he can refine his technique. Adding a player with his specific athletic profile is a calculated risk aimed at finding a diamond in the rough to bolster our coverage units. Honestly, when you see a player testing in the 9.98 range, you have to wonder if he can finally break through that ceiling once he gets comfortable in the playbook. With the preseason opener against Baltimore approaching, this addition immediately forces the coaches to evaluate how he fits alongside guys like Chance Campbell and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. during those high-stakes joint practices in New England. Any move of this nature shifts the internal competition, ensuring nobody on the current roster gets too comfortable while we prepare to battle for dominance in the division. While this transaction might seem routine to some, every roster spot matters when we talk about making a deep postseason run. Do we really expect a second-year player to jump into this environment and make an impact after a full year away from the gridiron? It is a fair question, but if he translates his pro day explosiveness to our defensive scheme, he could prove to be the hidden gem this roster needs to keep opposing offenses guessing. We are seeing a front office that refuses to stand still, always hunting for that next spark plug to solidify the rotation. Securing a prospect like Brandon George makes sense if you value raw physical ceilings above everything else, especially considering his staggering 9.98 relative athletic score. This measurement places him in a rare tier of historical linebacker testing, which is exactly why scouts might gamble on him during these dog days of training camp. The upside is clear. He possesses the size and burst potential that cannot be taught, giving the coaching staff a blank canvas to mold into a productive rotation player. However, we must confront the reality of his limited collegiate experience as a starter. Reliance on one single year of full-time duty at Pittsburgh creates a massive gap in his development compared to veterans currently on the roster. Here's the thing nobody wants to say. That lack of extensive game tape makes his transition to the speed of the professional level a genuine gamble for our front office. While Lance Zierlein highlights his burly frame, the recurring concerns about sideline-to-sideline range and coverage liabilities remain significant hurdles he must clear. Analysts are divided on whether his elite testing will translate into the discipline required to fit run gaps correctly when the bullets start flying. Do we honestly believe he can overcome these schematic deficiencies in such a short window? Other teams might have viewed him as a pure project, yet we are betting a roster spot on the hope that his special teams pedigree outweighs those glaring technical flaws. Here's where I land on this. While the athleticism is undeniable, I suspect he is a long shot to secure a spot when you look at the competition he faces from guys like Smail Mondon or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. His journey is truly inspiring, but surviving the final cuts requires more than just testing numbers. And I'm waiting to see if he proves me wrong. When you consider this signing alongside our defensive roster plans, a clear vision emerges for the front office regarding how they intend to handle depth through the next few years. Management is betting on high athletic upside to fill the gaps, and honestly, that 9.98 relative athletic score provides a tantalizing reason to give a player like Brandon George a real look in camp. Adding a 25-year-old with his size suggests we are moving away from relying solely on veterans and instead prioritizing raw physical traits that coaches can mold. And here's why that's a big deal. If this gamble pays off, the team gains a cost-effective explosive rotation piece that keeps the unit versatile. You should feel cautiously optimistic about this because it shows the staff is searching every corner of the league to find talent that others might have missed. It proves they aren't just sitting idle while waiting for the season to start. We are essentially watching a high-stakes search for diamonds in the rough, though we recognize that overcoming his past injury concerns and lack of coverage polish will be a steep climb. With joint practices in New England just around the corner, his ability to prove his pro day testing translates to actual football speed is the only thing that matters now. I am curious to see if his special teams background gives him the edge he needs to survive the next round of roster cuts. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Does his elite athletic testing outweigh the concerns regarding his lack of collegiate game tape? Also, do you think he actually earns a spot on the final